So even though I'm gonna have Lynn recording this,
I am recording it right now.
still feel free to like ask questions and all the other stuff.
A macro,
Perfect.
not macaroni.
So I'm gonna be doing a cake platter, and a few of the things I covered last week. Oh, random question. Does anyone have like a quarter in their pocket?
Quarter?
Quarter, yeah.
No, it's in the car.
This is, I promise, this is the only money that I'll ask from you. At least this week. This is how it starts. This is all conditioning.
Oh, you want more money from us, huh?
Well, I'm gonna start with a quarter, and then I'll, level my way up.
We underpaid.
But all right, so I'm doing a cake platter. To start, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the platter. Thank you so much. I will give this back at the end. And I'm just going to take a little bit of it off the top. And this clay that I have in my hand right now is going to help make it so that we don't get a crack later. So now we get to center it. Everyone's favorite step. And you always want to start with downward pressure. Make it so both your feet are solid on the ground. Brace all the muscles in your torso, rest your forearms on the splash guard. And it's mostly the heels of the palm on my left hand and the fingertips on my right hand. They're kind of acting like a clamp, going towards and away equally from the middle. The rest of my hand is engaged, but those are the parts of my hands that are where I'm focusing my attention. And I'll bring it up. And even though I'm doing this pretty quickly, you still want to try to start, ease into your pressure and ease out of your pressure.
How many pounds did you use?
So I'm using 12 pounds, and I'm going to throw it to be about 12 inches wide, I think maybe a little less. And I have 2 pounds to do what is basically like the stand part.
All right.
So I'm probably done centering. So I'm going to bring it down, and you can see that this spot right where the clay meets the bat, it's almost like clean, and that's because I'm really engaging my pinkies to scoop out the slip there, because I don't want this slippy stuff to be in between my pot and the bat. Otherwise, my pot will actually start to slide around on it.
Like last week when you did the platter.
I think the platter was okay.
Yeah, no.
The same concept. Yeah, exactly. And so you can see where the bat's kind of cleaner, and it's from my sponge and my hand pushing it away. And I'm really taking my time with that step, being slow. And it's, again, it's really important to make sure that none of that real slippy stuff gets trapped there. So that's the way that I mainly like doing it when I'm working with much larger pieces of clay, and I don't quite have the forearm strength. Sometimes I'll also use this technique. And I'll just, have one hand on top of the other, make a fist, and you can just lean down on this. This technique allows you to get a lot more power, but you have to worry about this seam line getting created here, and then the clay just kind of sliding over, then coming off in your hand. So as you do that, you're going to need to recompress that in and make sure that everything's basically staying together. And one way you can do that is by having your left hand there to make it so that you're not getting that seam line. Because it'll be like a wave at the ocean where it just kind of like crests over the base and just kind of attaches. Another way to bring it out is like this. And basically what's happening here is it's my middle finger and index finger that's going to be doing the pressing down and driving out. And my ring finger and pinky finger are basically just prepping the clay here and keeping it compressed so it doesn't think about becoming a wider section that comes off in my hands. And this clay's fairly soft, so a lot of these techniques I'm able to go through a little more quickly. And again, I'm going to have my thumb down here. And as I get farther towards the edge of the bat, I'm going to slow down the wheel a little bit because it is spinning a lot faster there. And you can see, there's kind of this clean spot here. That's from my thumb right here, basically digging into it while my fingers are bringing it out. And so basically my thumb is giving a little bit of back pressure, but it's allowing the clay to push my whole hand out. But that little bit of back pressure makes it so that only the firm clay will push your hand out and the softer clay will just get scooped away. So I don't want to make my cake platter too thin, because flat things have a tendency to crack. So you want to give them a little extra clay to help out with that. And I'm going to bring this out a little bit more, but I'm probably pretty close to my mark. Let's see where I'm at. So I'm at like 11 inches. Just going to finish flattening this out. In this spot right here, you also want to be really careful that when you have your fingers like this and you're working on pulling this rim up, that your thumb doesn't press down and make a dip there. Because that can be really, really annoying. Alright, so I've got a little bit of clay out towards the edge, and I'm going to be able to pull that up a bit to make a nice, fluty rim. But I can also just check to see how deep I am. And so I've got like that much thickness. So that's probably a lot more than I have in like a coffee mug or a small dessert plate. But the bigger the piece you have, the thicker that you're going to want to leave the foundation of it. If you have a bigger pot, you just need a thicker foundation. And then one thing that I really like to do, and I suggest everyone to do, because so often people have an issue with S-cracks, is that piece of clay that I took off at the beginning. Just like I showed you last week with the platter. So I'm going to rip the middle, take this, and I'm just going to smush it here. And I'm not going to try to like smush it down and bring it out to the rim. I'm just going to smush it down and just try to compress it as much as I can into that area.
That little piece is going to come out like that?
No,
Oh.
the bigger pieces. This is just extra compression and extra dryness added to the middle.
Duh.
And this is to help with S-cracks. And so I've got, this clay here, and I'm just going to slowly, just try to flatten it out and compress it. Make it so the clay in the middle is just as dense as possible. And this really, really helps with S-cracks. These two hands, one hand on top of the other, however you want to do it. Usually make it so that this is all really even and really compressed. Just so that you have a little bit more of the vision. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. But I'm actually going to bring this up more. I just don't want to do it right away because I have more to do in the middle. And if this is whipping around really fast, it might get, kind of knocked off center from one of my other hand motions. So I don't want to do too much with it.
To bring that nip up, you use your thumb and kind of pushing inwards?
Yeah, it's really just whatever's comfortable for you. You can use one hand on the inside, one hand on the outside. Thumb and finger from one hand, just whatever's comfortable. So I'm going to add another piece of clay, and this piece of clay is going to be the stand. And
So this is upside down.
yeah, it is upside down. And where's that quarter? Here. it is. So I'm going to leave this quarter here. Now you're never going to get it back. It's going to be in my pot. The quarter is so that I can open this up and make a basically stand. But when I open it up, I'll know how far to go because I opened it up down to the quarter.
If you pull the corner out.
And then, yeah, and then I know that I've opened it up to the same place that it's opened up out here. Super fancy tricks.
If you pulls 2 quarters out, that would be a good trick.
Yeah, there we go. That's the magic trick.
Big blade right there.
Just saying.
That's where the real money
Right.
in pottery
1 is not going to impress
When
me
you're
at all.
making platters in this, that secret, make 2 quarters
Yeah.
into 1 quarter trick. And you want to do, your due diligence and center this properly. Like we would anything else. And sometimes when I do this, I'll fire them upside down, and then I'll just polish, like with wet sandpaper, the surface, because it's like porcelain, it's really nice. And if you do that, you can do a really narrow stand. But I'm going to do a slightly wider stand, so actually I should probably just make it wider now. And that'll mean that I can fire them right side up, because I won't have too much of an overhang here. I'll have like a little bit of an overhang, but not too much of one where I have to worry about it, slumping too much. So now I can open it up. And I'll just open until I feel the quarter. And then I'll start pulling out. And what's nice about this is you can do this in 2 pieces. But I think this is a little bit more efficient to do it in 1 piece. And I think you end up getting, a slightly more fluid piece, and you don't have to worry about cracking as much. I think it's a bit more hardy if you just throw it all as 1 piece. It's basically more solid.
As opposed to scoring something.
Yeah. So now I'll just pull this up, and I'm doing it with my thumb on the outside, my pointer finger on the inside, but it's really just kind of whatever you prefer. I would advise trying to leave a little bit of extra clay at the rim. It'll just make it so that it is a little less likely to chip. Had this quarter spinning around in the middle here, and I think it's time to pull it out. Yep, cha-ching. Yeah, if I pulled 2 quarters out of there, oh man, would I have $1 million trade.
Going on
Then
the
we'll
road
bring-
with that one, my
Then we're
friend.
bringing in the dollars. The dollar coin.
Yeah, 25 cents at a
$3.5.
time.
We can work on it.
Maybe we can develop that together.
Diamond ring in.
Oh,
that
that's
would be
cool.
sweet.
Wait a second. When you propose to Nora, that's what.
Oh
that's
yeah,
what
when
we're
I
doing.
propose to Nora Jones, that's what I'll do. Perfect.
Look at, don't lose patience. Just watch.
Perfect.
Okay, so now the last little bit of throwing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this and I just want to have it angle in, because then it looks like a little curtain or skirt, which is kind of nice, I think.
Oh, instead of so uniform.
that. And then, does anyone have a wooden rib?
Yeah.
I always forget something.
I think is there one right there? No.
It's so hard to remember things because I'm used to just being in my space where
Is this what you want?
a pointy one. Just to gouge out the bottom.
Will that help you?
Yeah, that'll work.
Not what I
Perfect, thanks.
was looking for.
Oh, this is the stuff. There we go. So always do this. And the reason for that is, especially with these bigger pieces, when you wire it, it has a tendency, the wire tool has a tendency to rise up a little bit. But if you make this little undercut, it helps keep it suppressed. And then I just want this all to be an even curve. And you could do something where you leave the throwing lines, but for specifically what I have intended with this one, I want to smooth it out. And then, and this is, what I'm going to do now is basically the same thing as you would do with a pie plate if you wanted to flute the edges. And you want dry, clean hands. And you do one side, and then you go to the exact opposite side.
That's why I keep scoring.
Yeah, if you just do one and then another and then another and another, you get around and then all of a sudden you have like an awkward space where you can't, it's like too big of a space for one, it's too small of a space for two. So by doing it like this, you just keep everything evenly spaced. And this gives it some nice frill, basically. And you can even do some really fancy things where you carve this area and make it perforated. So I've got, like, I think just enough space for one more in between each of these. And it doesn't need to be like an exact science. But if you follow these guidelines, you're going to have something that, you know, looks fairly uniform and cohesive. And that looks pretty good.
Fabulous.
So next we'll trim it, but that won't be until next week. So
Stay tuned.
thanks, guys. Hey, dear students, welcome back. So I trimmed this thing and I did these alterations, and now I'm going to be just cutting it just to make it so that the bottom of it has a bit more of like a skirty effect. And I'm just using a just a little knife. And you could, draw these in Sharpie marker if you want to make it so that you have some lines to follow. I'm just cutting them through. And then I'll just go in and just clean the edges with like a sponge to smooth it out, and then I'll be all done. So just a little bit of detail work here. All right, and here's the finished piece. We've got a nice little, curtain underneath it. Makes it look extra fancy. And, you can be pretty loose with how you carve them. It's not a big deal to have them be all exact, just as long as they're all like relatively close. And then you can do really fancy stuff with it in the glazing, of course, but that's basically, that's basically it. So thanks.